Welcome to the final session of what's been a very long day, I guess. Thank you for being such an engaged and participative audience all day. So company building today looks a lot different from what it did even a few years ago. Fundraisers are higher, much larger, timelines are shorter, teams are tinier, and everybody is expected to do a lot more with a lot less. While most of tech headlines from last year focused on eye-popping valuations and record growth, I often found myself wondering what are the untold stories that lie beneath the surface. The stories of experiments, the stories of execution, stories that can make the fog of company building a little bit easier for first-time founders to navigate. So that is what today's session is about. It is not about what's trending in AI, what is hot, because there's plenty of that already. Today's session is about building an enterprise AI company from India. Raj has built AlphaSense into a very large and trusted enterprise player in what is one of the hardest categories possible, enterprise intelligence, in what has got to be the toughest and the most conservative market, which is global financial services. And he's done it by getting the fundamentals right over and over again. So for the next 30 minutes, what I'd like to do is for us to collectively build a practical enterprise AI playbook for founders building from India, building for the world, and particularly US enterprise markets. That is where the pot of gold lies. So without further ado, let's dive straight in. Raj, enterprise pain is abundant. There is plenty of friction points. The harder question is, what is the right problem to build a company around in a very noisy enterprise environment? What are the signals that one should look for when deciding this is worth the next 10 years of my life?
Well, thanks for having me. I'll get to I guess the crux of this issue is when you do a startup, you are at once trying to solve customers' pain points or trying to, or what you think of as a customer's pain point, but also the solution that would actually resonate. And then often people either are too ahead of the curve or too late to the game. And then when you do end up solving that, how do you communicate that to investors and make them understand that you are in fact at the right time, with the right product, at the right place. And then when doing so, you actually make some inroads, and then you hit a wall, and then and then things somehow get messy. So this is the classic game that one sees over and over and over. So what one wants to do is when you look at the problem, when you have a ton of things to solve, there's no dearth for number of problems you want to solve for. But the question is it the right time? It depends on asking the question, what's new now? What's new now is, well, anyone can say it's AI. Of course, it's true. But then what's specifically new that's specifically pertinent to that particular problem that the customer has seen, that you address in your solution that's not seen by them. For example, when we looked at, let's say for example, before all the AI stuff happened, when we looked at an analyst looking at just doing by his day job, trying to find information from a filing, and then trying to piece together the information, and then going back and then trying to do a search. They end up with some search product, and they find some information, they collate, they analyze, they synthesize, and then they put them into spreadsheets, and they go on to do the job. That process we found that was broken because from the point they made the query in a search engine, at that time, it's Google, Bloomberg, whatever you may think of, they sort of assume that the process is set the way it was because once Google has done a search and your enterprise tool of choice has given you a search result, and that's it, you can't really ask for more. And if you dig deeper into what they actually do and dive into their context, then the opportunity for improvement opens up. What they actually do is then they collate and they ask the question again and again and again. We found that they actually don't search. what they're looking to do is to find. There is a subtle difference between searching and finding. They do Control F all the time, and they look for snippets of information in the file. And they look for multiple files, and then they collate files from one earnings call to transcript. From transcript, they go on to looking at the broker information, and then they go into the inside file folders. Then they go to listen to a call, or they call an expert. The process of just digging through, you live through their life, you find that they're just doing all this work. And as you understand and put yourself in the shoes, you find that every one of them is a problem. And you then wonder which is it you want to solve and where do you want to insert yourself. It's better to solve where they dropped off from the prior and beginning point and start solving there. So we started off solving. After you start searching, you jumped off into your Control F thing. So we were going to solve the Control F problem. Instead of finding Control F, Control F, Control F, we're going to make that easy for you and understand the semantics of your question and make it easy for you to search in a much larger way. So I'm saying going back and putting that point because that is the pain point that we chose to solve that would amplify into immediate, visible time savings that they could perceive from that moment of search to actually finding, to collating, to synthesizing. In today's world, today what happens similar to that? Where can you find improvements? Start with ChatGPT. You can similarly go look for a question. You can search for a question. The information is not in ChatGPT. It's internet content for a certain point in time. And once you have that information at a certain point in time, it has to be, anything new has to be brought to it in order for it to answer. So you have to sort of dig through and find out what is the pain point that the customer is going through for the particular problem you're trying to solve. In our case, it was search engine. In our case, it was search engine then. Now it is more about answering of question and actually getting the job done all the way through. Now, to this process, what do I do with that inflection point? The AI tech today not just understand the semantics of your question, it actually can be an agent for you and actually do more than that. So it is not just, if you're trying to build a ChatGPT right now, it's a little too late. Johnny come lately, you're a little too late to that game. If you'd done that 3 years back, yeah, it would have been better. And if you'd done 10 years back like us, you would have been improved. Nobody saw that, and all it required was someone to sit through and kind of pause yourself and slow down. When you're rushing too fast, you slow down, and when the more you slow down, you can dig through deeper and deeper and deeper and find where is it you want to get in. So today, where do you want to slow down, and how do you want to proceed to the next step? Is to see the information gets processed, and then they get lost in the context. They get lost in how to take that information and go to the next app. So I can go into figuring out what the pain points are for the enterprise, but the process remains the same. The process remains exactly the same as what we did 10 years back, as it was what we did 3 years back when ChatGPT came, how we reinvented ourselves, and then what it would remain now, and what would be 3 years from now. It's always the same, and that is pause yourself, slow yourself down, and put yourself in the shoes of the customer, and just take step by step, and what do they do after they use a product before and after.
Thank you, Raj. So when we were trying to piece together your enterprise AI playbook, I remember you said that you would actually exhort founders to be 10x different, not 10x better, while most conventional wisdom says that, just be better than incumbents.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to double click on that. Tell us what that means in the enterprise environment of today.
Yeah. So I spent a little bit more time on the first part for a reason, because you want to dig through the pain point and the solution part, because it's the most important part. And the second part to that is problem, solution, and then the timing of it. Once you have figured out those three, you want to position the product and solution. And if you don't position correctly, you are just going to be I'm better than, in our case, better than FactSet because it's faster, because I bring all the information together. It's less, it's more, it's cheaper. Those types of differentiations are positioning is not really as powerful, because I think it's, now you're getting to the featureitis. You're trying to say, I have this feature, I have that feature. That is not the right way to talk about it. You want to be picking the points of differentiation in such a way that it fundamentally challenges everyone else to change their way of doing business. In order for them to compete with you, they have to change their business model or the way they have to operate. We have to have, for example, in case of Bloomberg, for example, they have so much going on for them. For us, it would be a much be focused on search and be so good at that. And we pull information from unstructured content to be so good at that and not worry about all the other structured content. If we try to do what they do and do unstructured content, that's not, we lost the differentiation. We have to focus only on unstructured to our own, to our own risk in some ways and say, oh, you don't do structured content? Yes, we don't do structured content. We only do unstructured. It may sound like you're not competing with them, but I can say, yes, we are not doing that because we are only doing this. If you want that, please go with them. It takes some guts to say that, but you start from there. Once you do that, you now start carving yourself a position in how you talk about your product versus someone else's. In fact, you forget about competition. You forget about competition, you just say how different you are in solving the problem in ways that others kind of acknowledge what they do and they don't feel threatened by what you do. You also look at your positioning becomes easier to communicate. It becomes easier to communicate because you're not worried about into featureitis mode anymore. It's sort of a blue ocean strategy that they talk about in that you want to find a blue ocean where nobody else is there. But that's a scary thought because if nobody else is there, maybe they're not there for a reason. There's nothing to look. What differentiation does is that it justifies why you are in the blue ocean because you are now confidently in the blue ocean. Knowing that you are there for a reason, you have enough information and you found your positioning there. I am not doing structured content because it's something can complement with my unstructured. My product is different enough from what you have that you can find room for both. My product focuses only on this particular content set. My product does only this. We don't do this. We don't compete with anyone else. And being able to say that gives a choice to the customer. They are not now there trying to drag you down the path of another vendor. They see you as an independent player that's there to solve their problem with a particular point solution. That gives you a path into capturing a mind share from them. And I'm not trying to say this is something category defining product should do, but it really doesn't matter whether it's category defining or not. You are able to speak on your own terms. And that's what differentiation does. If you don't do that, you are then always in a compare and contrast mode. That's the worst place to be. And that's why the more you differentiate, the easier everything else falls in place. You can train your staff better. You can test your sales enablement gets better. Your communication gets sharper. Your positioning gets better. You're able to justify the value. You're able to capture the value. You're able to even put the competition on alert and say, well, we really aren't like that. We don't want to compete with them. So you kind of keep them away as well.
Right. So once you've built a unique positioning, a differentiated positioning for your product, it's time to sell it. And that's where I want to spend a little bit more time because sales is where most founders, especially technical founders, have a little bit of a phobia. Often they will build furiously, before coming up for air, thinking I'll figure out the commercial stuff later. And honestly, this tendency is only going to get more pronounced in today's world because AI makes it possible to ship faster than ever. We've seen a lot of headlines about young companies sprinting to their first few millions in revenue in like absurdly condensed timeframes. The jury's still out on whether those growth engines are durable. But you said something that stuck with me, which is that in the AlphaSense way, sales is a differentiator. So what I'd like to do is to decode, what that sales process looks like across stages. So 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100. Perhaps we can start with 0 to 1 first. What does sales look like, sales process look like at this stage?
Sure. So we've gone through the process of going back to pain, product, solution. You found yourself talking about the differentiator, 10x differentiators. You found the inflection point, timing is right. You've gone through checkpoints. Now you, as a founder, you start to communicate this. You're in the early days, you are the product marketer. You are the one doing everything. And so your pitch is going to be verifying these things in the marketplace and getting feedback. In order to do this and actually know that you are on the right path, what I found is that speed and then the feedback loop is super critical as you are in the 0 to 1 phase, 0 to 1 million phase. In that phase, you are allowed to not be prisoner to your pricing. You can do whatever you want. You can call it 100, your product may be worth $1,000. You give it for $50, you give it for $5,000, see what happens. That is your room to play around with your pricing, packaging, all of that stuff. There is a time where what I think is that you should try to have a product that you can communicate in 5 minutes, and you can get a customer to get an aha moment in 5 minutes and be able to buy within a week and be able to commit. If you don't do that, then you are either pitching to the wrong person or pitching them the wrong way. I would say figure out whether you are pitching to the right person first. Because if you pitch even the right way, if you're pitching to the wrong person, you don't know whether you're pitching the right way is in fact the right way or not. So you start with the right person first. So solve that problem. You are in fact pitching the right person, and then you iterate through and pitch the right way, and get it to the point where you are at least able to sell within 5 minutes. You get the aha moment in 5 minutes. That should be your goal. If you don't do that, then you are not getting feedback on something else. And so that is critical. Once you do that, then you push them for a sale within a week. There's no reason if you got an aha moment, what's wrong with you to sign something within a week? Why should it take so long? If your goal is not to return cash back from the sales, back to the business quickly, you are stuck. Cash is king in startup. When the cash burns, your game is shut. Your game is over. So you want to get your CAC, your client to acquisition should be within 3 months. You got to get the money back. Cash has to be refueled back. So I would say I give 5 minutes in 1 week, but more or less you can call it 1 hour and call it 2 weeks, whatever. But it has to be somewhat reasonable. Of course, for a deep tech that takes selling to the government, Singaporean government or some other government, it takes forever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about most enterprise companies. You should be able to sell something that's a reasonably time frame. Once you do that, now you are in the business of making a sale. Once you make a sale, your next signal should be, okay, I don't know if I got it through cook or crime. Somehow I sold them. I don't know if it's real. I got to see if it's real. You know that only when they renew. So make the renewal process maybe quicker. Maybe you don't sell it for a year. You want to get the renewal feedback quicker. Maybe sell it for every month, every 3 months. Maybe sell it by tokens, whatever. You see the feedback on this. The last thing you want to do is to kid yourself into thinking that you have a product. Your fundraising is not your success. Fundraising is a stepping stone to do even bigger things. I see a lot of folks, I raise so much money, and then you go on a party. I'm like, what are you partying for now? The real work starts only now. So that's not really your goal. Your goal is to actually sell. Your goal is to have a product that people use and find it valuable. And so what are the signals for that? The signal is renewal. When they renew, they also typically refer. Word gets out. When you buy, when you renew, when you refer, that's when you know it's actually catching on. And when they refer and they renew again, the referral renews again, now you know you have a product that's actually sticky. And these things should happen. 5 minutes, 1 week sale, renew, refer, renew again. If these things happen within 0 to 1, you have now cracked the secret to your business with the differentiation that you have set out to figure out. Not to being better, but being different. This experiment can be done only by you, a founder. And it's your job, not for someone else's job. You don't sit on code and say, I'm an engineer, I'm going to sit on code. I built a product, now I'm going to hire somebody else to go and have them go and sell. No. You are the one that's supposed to communicate the vision. You are the one supposed to figure out the business. If you don't do that, you can't communicate to the salesperson on how to sell. And the first salesperson should be you. And so once you do that, that's when I think you actually have something credible to actually pour the gasoline on.
So 0 to 1 is really founder-led sales.
It's founder-led sales. You can have I understand that there are gaps in engineers say, I don't know, I've never sold, I've never done this. But trust me, we all are salespeople. I mean, you convince yourself, first of all, that's a sale in itself.
Yes.
So we are all salespeople, we just don't think we are. But if you're passionate enough, you will sell anything. So if it's your product, if it's you built it, you will sell it. Trust me, you will. And so the only thing is that you're afraid of going out there and doing it. You're afraid of failure, of doing the cold call. And so try to meet them in person, be passionate with it's your baby. So go try doing that yourself. And you'll find your way. And if you do need some help, yeah, definitely get some help. And that's the second part I want to come to. You'll have gaps, you'll need help. So surround yourself with people who can help you and get you. But the message should come from you, eventually. You don't have to be the one who knows how to figure out the sales engine. That you don't have to figure out. But you have to figure out the product marketing, the messaging. We built a 1-minute video early on, and we kind of talked about the pain point. We said, we had this person trying to do the highlighter. My co-founder actually felt the pain, so he was able to articulate that. We said, we took the highlighter, and I'm doing all this, and we threw the papers up. It was so funny, and we just put it out there, and the message resonated very well. And then we said, oh, it's the control F, I'm just going crazy. So it really be humanize the whole problem, and start with that. And that got us a lot of feedback loop and that we really wanted. And that got us to 0 to 1.
Wonderful, and you're right. Founders sell all the time, right? They sell their visions to themselves first,
Yep.
their employees, their investors. So then try, selling to enterprises as well.
Right.
How do things change when you move from 1 to 10?
Yeah, then you have to hire salespeople. You start managing people. You have to become a better manager. You start initially hiring, good quality salespeople. Don't get a VP, enterprise VP. The person wants to have, he's become a manager. He or she has become a manager, and so he wants to have a team. And first, you want to get maybe 1 or 2 star salespeople that has sold and can build their own pipeline, cold calls, the typical process, and you want to know it's a repeatable sales motion, and you have your early sales training methodology in place. It's cooked up by you as a founder. It's your methodology. You're going straight from horse's mouth to the salesperson. They pick it up and they get one more and one more and one more. You now try to figure out not only the messaging that scales slightly more by then you probably also hit more than one customer type. You've gone from maybe one segment to the adjacent segments very, very slowly. Yeah, and you starting to go sideways, and you want to make sure that the core message veracity is still there. It has enough fidelity to it, and you are able to customize it just so a tad a little bit. Your vision stays the same. You're still flexible on the delivery. You can deliver. Anyone can deliver. The message still stays the same. You are able to do that. That testing you do. Now you go up to 5, 10 salespeople. Slowly add few. In a few years, you hire a sales manager who is able to work with people. Sales manager has to be so personable, has to know deal with that. So hire the right person. So you get to that 1 to 10. It may take you a few years. Now during this time, so a key metric becomes super important, and that metric is renewal. It doesn't make sense for you to hire, to sell a $500,000 and have $300,000 churn. You're just like churning all the time. You don't have a repeatable business. Your ARR has to be, maybe you're selling SMBs, which is a 70% renewal rate, and then you're moving up the food chain. Real large enterprises will get you 99%, but you're not big enough to sell to them. So your goal should be realistic. It's okay to have 60-70% renewal rate initially, but don't go like 30% renewal rate. That's really bad. So you have to know stage appropriate renewal rates for the segment you are in. Nobody starts to sell to IBM, to large vendors. You don't sell to Amgens and Glaxos the day one, unless you are Slack. Slack has a different element to it, virality to it. But other companies, you sell to SMBs. You sell to some. We accidentally sold to some larger company, and I was scared. I was like, whoa, they just bought $100,000. How am I going to serve them? And you know what? Honestly, 1 year later, they canceled because we were not ready to handle them. Right. So that happens too. So your numbers may look. So filter the numbers, look at it carefully, and say what's the real renewal rate, and see if you have a built-in engine that's on the training, on the renewals. You now have what seems like a messaging that holds, that sort of starts to spread. And this referral renew also has been confirmed. Now we have a building blocks of what I call as a quote unquote a business starting to emerge out of this.
So when you said personable salespeople, I was reminded of how you said that you figured out the ideal archetype of salespeople, for AlphaSense. Do you want to, just tell us a little bit about that?
My very first few early salespeople, it took a long time to decide. We were, in fact, I was just in Singapore some time back. The new people who joined said AlphaSense has a very good habit of we take a long time to hire and we fire really fast. So it took my very first sales hire, 3-4 months, and he was so frustrated. He was like, "I'm so good. How can you not tell me that I'm so good? Why didn't you hire me?" But we took our time early on because we were not so sure that you could communicate as well as we did, and so that salesperson I found that had certain traits. He was so process oriented. He was a marathon runner, and I started seeing some traits. These people are not your charming, person. These are really, process-oriented people that follow those habits. They have these atomic habits down. They wake up and 1 hour, first 1 hour, I'm going to make a cold call. I'm going to do this next. I'm going to do this next. They just follow that. If you're a marathon runner, I'm not a marathon, but any sports person I know, they follow a regimen. They just do it. They don't think about it. And so by doing that, they get their miles in, and they get their process in. And so this allows them to be consistent. And they stay away from accounts that keep them running around the loops. There's a customer that would say, "Oh, I'm going to give a big deal and take 6 months." Walk away from them, close the accounts. The process involves every 2 months you say this account is closed, and which means you lost. You have to declare the account as a lost. even in a month or two if you don't close within the time frame. If you have a 9-month time frame for a feedback cycle, and if you don't close it for 1.5 years, you have no feedback. Right. And you are not, it feels like you're hard on yourself, but it's not. You want to call it quit. I lost it. And then that makes you regenerate yourself. These habits have to be found in a salesperson that you hire, because again, the salesperson now gives you feedback. So now you are out of it. Make sure you invest in a tool like Gong or similar tools that give you listen to the client feedback, invest in the right tools. That's 1 to 10.
Right. So what breaks when you go from 10 to 100?
I think that few things that need to happen. So first, along the way, the differentiation allows, the product gives you the right to talk about differentiation. The differentiation gives you the right to sell. The sales gives you the right to ask for renewal. The renewal gives you the right to ask for referral. If they don't renew, why would you ask for referral? You want to do that. Obviously, they renew, so they like it, right? So you can ask them for referral. Right. The referral gives you the right to the whole right to claim that you have a differentiated, that's validated, and you go down this path, and you start to build trust along the way. When they do this over and over and over, you now earn the right to, get their trust. Your renewal rates should ideally go up. It should go from 80% to 85%, onwards. And that's when you invest in proper sales enablement channels. Even earlier, you should do that. You have a proper sales enablement team that actually trains at scale. You start looking at your star salespeople that are building their own cold calls, and started building your teams into pods and your teams into SDRs, and you by then you figured out your go-to-market motion. I'm talking about one particular go-to-market motion, which is direct sales, and you figure out your upgrading of the direct sales motion process. This is enterprise sales I'm saying, which is typically this process. I'm not talking about direct channel sales or some other ways, which is, we typically don't do that because you don't get the feedback. Again, channel sales, indirect sales don't give you feedback, and you lose out on the whole cycle. Right. That's why I don't recommend partnerships in any of that sort early on. It sounds tempting to go into all kinds of channels, but businesses need to know whether you're working on the right stuff, and so it's critical to do this yourself. And that's when you invest in sales leaders, sales, VP, CRO type material kicks in. You start talking about trust, and the investors start to ask, you want to raise more capital, and once you get in investors in a bigger way, only then you start talking about moat. Until then, talking about moat when you have nothing makes no sense, because you haven't built anything. Why are you talking about moat right now? So I think, this staging process is super important to go from differentiation to R&R, renewal, referral, renewal cycle, and then building a trust, and then building the sales engine enablement, then you get to the moat.
So I hope the founders in the room are taking notes. These are some incredibly practical frameworks, a real nugget of insights. We don't often get to hear this level of detail. So let's go to moats now. We've differentiated our product. We've figured out how to sell it. We've gotten the renewals and referrals coming in. And now let's look at our moats. So you said that, and it was very interesting when you said that, that differentiation gives us the right to play, but not the right to win. And what does the right to win, a moat, look like in the AI era? And when you look at the entire spectrum of AI native, AI enabled, AI enhanced, where should startups really position themselves? Or does that even matter? It only matters to founders and investors? Does it also matter to buyers? And a little bit of a follow-up to that would be, at what point does AI stop being a feature that you can turn off and start becoming like a core part of infrastructure that enterprises can't live without?
Yeah, so this whole notion of AI native, AI enabled, AI enhanced, I'll get into that a bit more. It's these subtle terms. Every company is an AI company these days. It's kind of a, obvious thing.
Yeah, everything is AI.
Everything is all AI. So there's no even point in saying that. But there is a difference between people claiming I am AI native and you are really not. AI native companies are the companies that wouldn't exist if had AI not existed. Like there's no reason for you to exist. Like you wouldn't be there, period. If you are a medical diagnostics company, you will still exist without AI, right? So you're not an AI company. So if you are a medical diagnostics company and an AI company, like, well, I mean, you are AI enhanced or AI enabled in some ways. And so AI native companies are those, where the LLM is the core, or some core tech is the driving engine. Without, you take that out and nothing in it. Like, and so, whereas if a company that has lots of useful information. They're selling data already, and data itself is valuable. Structured content, for example, in balance sheets and stuff, it's useful by itself. So they're not AI native, but they can be AI enabled. Like, you can make them do wonders after that. You can make the same structured content, make them do a lot more stuff with it. And then you are now AI enabled company. AI enhanced company is one that has a pipeline of drugs coming up. Now they are AI. The way they create the drugs is not like someone else. They may have a wet lab, they may have few science researchers, but the way you do your AI drug is different from them in the sense that for you, the AI drug molecules that come out are driven by the AI and its filtering process, and you scientists are now not even in the front line choosing it. They sort of become the servants of the AI itself in the background. You flip the model. Before, the scientists were on the top of the food chain looking at it. Now they are almost like workers behind it. Kind of tricky, and when I say that, but essentially AI enhanced companies when they flip the model and show that this is how we work. So once you categorize that, that becomes a talking point for the investors, because then they can say, I can now see how you are differentiated. It goes back to differentiation. Now this differentiation for investors is what I call as a moat. Differentiation for sales is not the same as differentiation for investors. Differentiation for sales is all about, will this work or not? I mean, customer doesn't care what you call AI native. I don't give a damn. If I'm a customer, call it what you want, potato. Does it work or not? Like, in the age of hype, so much hype, does it work? And there's so much is going. Before I can blink, there's a new model comes out every other month. So before I work on this, and my product becomes a substitution product from someone else. Like what you told me that this is cool stuff. Now I get that for free if I just buy that next generation ChatGPT. So what do I do? So you have to be careful with what you pitch, that it's at least somewhat contextualized to the user, and say that no matter what the technology is, this is still working and differentiated from that. Continuous rapid evolution. That's one. Second is you need to have the speed as your moat in differentiated also in some ways. You are able to bring the latest capability quickly to the market. But speed is of no use if it doesn't work well. So it has to work really well. So I would say make it work well first, and then make sure you're doing it fast enough. Once you do that few times, they will wait for you. They know that you are the person that knows how to take it and actually make it work. And so even if you're off by a few months, they will wait for you. Now you are using the trust that they built with you. People aren't asking for, I saw this new LLM came from China. What's taking so long? It's a weekend already. Where is it? They're not saying that. There is overwhelmed, inundated already. So speed is useful only to a point. So they want to make sure these days they want to make sure it works well. So make it work well, make it work fast, because then it becomes your execution ability becomes your moat. And for some reason you've attracted top engineers to work for you, and so that becomes your ability to execute faster. These things will drive you more signups, and that will again goes back to renewals and referrals and back to square one. Those habits don't change, by the way. Some of the other things I mentioned, they don't change. This stuff is just new.
So if you were, you built AlphaSense before, this entire AI era kicked in. If you were building AlphaSense today, what would you be most careful about as AI scales in production? Cost, latency, governance, or credibility with customers?
Yeah, so all you have to do is to sit and calibrate. The cost drops 10 times over. And if you've built a reputation for building something that works well for them, they will trust you. They'll give you some room. And you can charge them, a fee. You almost never want to price based on cost. You want to price based on value, right? So if it costs you 10 times more and you are unable to afford this thing, you should think twice. But then you can also bet that it's going to come down in price by 10 times, which it does. And so it's for you to make the call. It's not for customer to sort of decide and absorb the price for you. Right. Unless you are in a market where they want the latest and the greatest, and it does cost you more, and you want to calibrate to that. That's different. In most cases, I think if you are bundling, you become the sort of the gatekeeper of the best tech and the best delivery, and you own the distribution. They trust you with all of that. I think you have some room to play with pricing and packaging. And so if you have the room to play with pricing and packaging, you can bet that the price will drop, and you're going to pick a midpoint of sorts, and you can sort of iterate through the process. I would once I use the speed to deliver high quality, I would start building on trust and governance. And depending on the business, actually, if you are in life sciences, for example, maybe you want audit control. How you pitch matters. the value to them may be different from company to company. If you're selling to the legal wants a chain of thought thread. What are you reasoning here? For life sciences, maybe it's audit trail. It's a different kind of information. So people want to know that safety concerns are higher for them. So it really depends on which market, and you want to talk their language. What's your real blocker for you in your mind? At this point, they're not talking about your ability to deliver, product works. Now they just have a gatekeeper problem. And that gatekeeper problem is idiosyncratic or unique to the particular business they are in. You want to understand their lingo and talk that language. So that's the part I would say. You can call it trust, you can call it governance, whatever that might be. Figure out that and start with one vertical and focus on the messaging there. Then go to the next vertical. If you try to generalize it, you are now coming off like generic. You can't talk the same way with life sciences and legal and some other and try to expect the governance to be the same. The governance is going to be different. What they care for is going to be different. So that language has to change. That's why you shouldn't try to sweep through all three at the same time.
Thank you. So I'm going to pause here and open the floor up for questions. Folks, it's all yours.
Hi, so I'm Palak. I am the founder of Jiva, and we are building in a space for effortless reading. And my question for you is, you were talking about AI systems that work, right, and that work well for the customer. And one of the biggest challenges today when it comes to building personalized AI systems is that they must have this sense of getting to know you, and they must intelligently update with you and grow with you so as to, give you the right responses that you can actually grasp and understand. And so my question to you is, what are some of the solutions that you see that are trying to get this right and that are making this work?
You're talking about personalization for the particular company, or?
Personalization of the context of the customer.
Yeah. So I don't know if you read this article. This came 10 days back from Foundation Capital. If you haven't read it, I suggest you go take a look at it. I'll maybe send the article. The context engineering is all the rage now. It's always been. As the intelligence rises, general intelligence rises in the tools that you use, it's not that difficult to find an engine and pass it enough information, and it sort of gives you a stateless response. But the response changes a lot better as you provide more and more context of what your prior queries were, or information around the particular job that you're trying to do. If you want to personalize it, you need to be in their shoes and know their workflow. And their workflow happens across the various tools that they use, which you have no control over. And so you want to build your system in such a way that it is that you are able to convince them that it's in their interest to give you, set it up in such a way that it is able to capture as much context as possible across the workflow that you are working in the tool in. So if they are using your tool and they are using another tool before this and another tool after you, and then they're checking the third tool before this, you want to find a way to connect the dots between the three, and somehow write your agents. I'm trying to go into more advanced terms here. Essentially, you want to do more work through your software and actually ask for integrations across other tools around you, and so that you can capture the thread around this. And then if that information happens to jump away from that to human level, which is they go to Slack and start going to email and start getting into approvals and start getting into decisions around you, all that information sort of flows into the personalization. Personalization is going to becomes so important from this point onwards. It's going to become the thing that differentiates a company as you go into just using AI-enhanced in a sort of a pot shot call into actually doing the work for them. Humans do the work in the context of so many other things that we do, and we do that because we do that seamlessly. This goes back to right in the beginning. I said, slow down and look at what people work on. If you slow down and look at how we work, I talk to you, I turn around and look at those notes, I turn around and talk to that person. Now I just tapped into iPhone information on a particular app. So we do so much. There's so much complexity that goes on into our head. We subconsciously do it, and we think that this work is something that machines cannot do, but it can. The tools they have the intelligence to do that now. What's blocking it, if you slow down and watch, is that it is not giving the information. Of course, it doesn't do the job because we have not shared it. But if you're building a tool and if you share the information, it will do it. And so your differentiation comes from how well can you integrate? How well can you convince them to part with their information so they can add the context back into your stack and then give them back? So this is sort of getting into the thorny issue of entitlement and earning the right to share, earning the right to play alongside. This is going to be critical in industrial setting. Robots are going to work with you alongside, learn from you. Similar to that, in the software world, is going to work alongside you on the browser or some other place. So this is going to get a little tricky over time as it starts working side by side in enterprise.
I'm Adarsh. I'm the founder of Gharpe. It is into insurance and credit access for the gig economy, the session just before this. You touched upon slowing down, and you touched upon again, you slightly explained about it in the initial part of your session. How do you touch upon the right problem to solve and the way to solve it, right? Yeah. So how do you slow down as a founder? You told about that we should, but how do you, as a founder, because you have so many things to do, you want to do so many things, how do you actually slow down as a founder?
Well, I'm not asking you to slow down, but I'm asking you to. I'm asking you to the work that the customer is doing with your product. When you think they're just doing something, and you just assume so many things around it, you sort of dig deep into that, and say, what else are they doing? Ask the question. We don't ask enough questions around it. What else are you doing around it, before me, after me? And you never put yourself in that shoe. And maybe from user to user, they're doing a variety of things. That's your job, to sort of interview them and sort of have the context. Otherwise, how will you ever be able to talk to them? It's sort of like selling I don't know, microwave in the olden days to someone without knowing what goes on in their mind. And why would you sell a microwave when they are so enjoy the cooking, they want to enjoy the process of cooking, and tell them, oh, you don't have to do anything, you just do it in 30 seconds. I'm like, well, I really enjoy cooking. Oh, no, you just shut the whole product down. You are not communicating the value prop they get from the product you're selling. If you slow down and think about where they're coming from, that's not you slowing down, but you slow down what goes on in their head. You slow down their thought process, their buying reasons. And that's what I want you to slow down and see, why are they not doing that? And that's what you should go into.
Good evening, sir. My name is Shyam, and I am an AI founder in financial research space. I have two questions for you. One is related to your industry sector, which is related to search and the incumbents like Bloomberg or Reuters or other players. You said that you picked up a very simple problem where related to search. So after the advent of all these AI technologies, where do you see your industry moving towards? Is it like one single aspect like search, or is it like building solution based on outcome, which is quite difficult to do? Everyone is talking about agents, but in agents, when actually the reality hits is like the customer, like large enterprise, they pay for a problem. It is not one single problem that you solve. It's like a series of problems.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So
most of the cases. So just to complete my question. So let's say you have 3 tasks, and the greatest and latest, AGI kind of thing have 95%, let's say, success rate, the best case. That particular task, when you go and eval, in the eval mode, you have 15% error, for which an enterprise is not going to pay any money unless the success rate is 99%. Yep. Yeah. So what is your view on that?
Yeah, so just like, for someone to do the job, goes back to slow down and see what people do. If you slow down and see what people do, search was discovery was the first thing that anyone does to solve anything. If I ask you to do anything, if I say, how do I get to, I want to go have dinner today, make arrangements. So you need to know, like, would dinner, am I vegetarian or non-vegetarian? You're going to ask a bunch of questions. You're going to first ask me the question. Next is, what kind of food do you like? So you will ask a bunch of discovery questions at me, and you'll have to get the information to go find out. So you'll break the problem into a subtask, and each subtask will then go into a discovery phase by itself again. Then you'll synthesize that information. Then you analyze that. This is going to go on in a recursive infinite loop of thing until you reach an endpoint. The reason why I say that is because you want to. We were solving the first step of that planning process, but then we are able to solve 3 or 4 steps in the planning process these days. So, but it's not the entire higher order task of just doing, as you said, 15% is all you get. Maybe you're choosing a task that's not there yet. So you just have to now define your, define what you solve as, well, we don't solve the whole thing for you. We solve the problem of scheduling for you. We solve this particular problem of, creating an Excel spreadsheet for you. So
now we're way out of time. I know it's been a very long day. And so we will have to draw this session to a close. I actually had a very interesting rapid fire segment also prepared, but I'm not sure if you guys have it in you to spend another 5 minutes here. Yes? Oh, really? Okay. All right. So we've gone deep into systems and playbooks. Let's do the quick rapid fire. Raj, great product with average sales or average product with great sales? What wins?
great product with average sales for the first 0 to 1. And then great sales.
Thank you. Renewals or logos? Which signal actually matters more at scale?
Renewals.
Wonderful. What's harder, building the first 1 million or the next 10 million in enterprise?
I think 1 to 10 actually.
Okay. That is actually counterintuitive, but thanks. Trust or speed? What matters more with enterprises?
There's no trust without speed.
Okay. And one mistake Indian founders make when selling to US enterprises?
Forget that nobody cares about product. You need to worry about yourself. Just go to market and sales. Figure out sales.
Wonderful. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time, your insights. Raj, there's great nuggets for building a very step-by-step practical enterprise AI playbook. My biggest takeaway is that in enterprise sales, it's not what's new and shiny, but really getting the basics right again and again. So slow down, find the right pain point, align your pain point with the inflection points, build your product 10x different, create the right feedback loops, aha in 5 minutes, the 3 R's, renew, refer, renew again, and then build your moat, rinse and repeat. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you for being so patient.